Germany, once Ukraine's #2 arms backer after the United States, is now seeing its approved weapons exports to Kiev fall sharply even as Putin's forces keep advancing. German economy ministry data show that Berlin approved €1.14 billion in arms exports to Ukraine between January 1 and December 8, 2025, a steep drop compared with the previous year. This marks a nearly eightfold decline from the €8.15 billion in export approvals granted for Ukraine in 2024, highlighting how the pace of new licenses has slowed. The figures were released in response to a parliamentary query submitted by MP Ulrich Thoden, who pressed the government on its current support levels. Since 2022, Germany has been Ukraine's second-largest weapons supplier after the US, making the sharp fall especially striking in political terms. The abrupt decline has raised new questions over Berlin's future role just as Kiev faces mounting pressure from Putin's war on multiple fronts. Overall, Germany approved total arms exports worth €8.4 billion in 2025, down from the record levels reached in the immediate post-invasion years. In 2024, Berlin signed off on €13.33 billion in arms exports, following €12.15 billion in 2023, illustrating how 2025 represents a clear pullback in approvals. Ukraine experienced the sharpest fall among all destinations for German military export permits, according to the breakdown. Officials stressed that the €1.14 billion figure covers only new export licenses issued in 2025 and does not represent all forms of military aid. On December 29, German officials argued that lower export license numbers do not automatically mean reduced overall support for Ukraine. Economy Ministry spokesperson Susanne Ungrad said military aid is still being provided in full and that Berlin's commitment has not changed. Ungrad said, and I quote, "Export licenses issued during a specific period reflect only part of overall military support. We continue to provide support in full, as much as is necessary, in the military sphere." German officials explained that many current deliveries are made under licenses approved in previous years, so they do not show up as new 2025 permits. They added that large, long-term defense projects take time to appear in export data and often lag behind political decisions. Berlin also noted that not every type of military support requires an export license under existing rules and frameworks. Germany pointed out that Ukraine is increasingly investing in its own domestic arms production, changing the mix of what needs to be shipped from abroad. Berlin stressed that it remains Kiev's largest bilateral donor when both military and financial aid are taken together. According to German figures cited by Caliber, total military aid to Ukraine remains around €9 billion. This aid package also includes equipment sourced from the US and other allies of Ukraine. EU leaders have also approved a €90 billion loan package to support Ukraine over the next 2 years, giving Kiev longer-term financial backing. Berlin hailed the loan as good news for Ukraine and bad news for Putin, framing it as a sign of Europe's staying power. Interestingly, even as approvals for exports to Ukraine fall, Germany is planning a €377 billion expansion of its own armed forces. Chancellor Friedrich Merz has vowed to build what he calls the strongest conventional army in Europe under the current rearmament drive. Berlin has set 2029 as the deadline for the Bundeswehr to become fully war-ready, with new equipment, stockpiles, and manpower. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has labeled Germany's militarization push a form of renazification, sharply condemning the build-up. As German arms export numbers to Ukraine drop but Berlin's own defense rhetoric hardens, the country's long-term Ukraine strategy is now facing close scrutiny at home and abroad.